Hey, everybody, and welcome to my weekly live call in this special community group. And again, if you are just joining or you don't know about this, but every week on Wednesdays, I do a live chat where I invite you to share questions before or during. And I'm here to really be accessible and answer any question you have and help contribute to the community in terms of your growth, professional growth, and personal growth. Um, so welcome, and again, I forgot to share a post, but if you look at the pinned post, you'll see that there's an opportunity for you to actually throw your questions in. But next time, maybe I'll try to prompt you, say, hey, what are your questions that you want me to cover today? And if you do sign on this call or you find the replay, you can also ask questions below, and I'm happy to answer them. In the absence of any questions, I always have things that I'm happy to talk about. And so the first thing I want to talk about is really the importance of mental processing. We have to process our emotions and our mental well-being constantly. It's a daily grind. There's so much media and so much communication. There's so much stuff going on out there, information overload out there, that sometimes it's hard for us to navigate that. And this can happen even whether you're in your own home or in the workplace on a Zoom call. It could be lots of different things. It could be your health. It could be lots of things. And so it's really important to take the time to find tools and ways to manage those emotions and manage and process the mental stuff that's going on in your head, because it happens all the time. And and a perfect example of this is trying to go to sleep. I was trying to go to sleep last night, and there was things in my head. And I often when I'm lying in bed or when I'm in the shower, I'll often think about even little things like, oh, there's an email I have to send to somebody. Like I can't fall asleep, or the shower gets distracted. Like I think about my task list when I think about things I got to do, and so there's always all these things in your mind. And then there's things that are good in your mind, things that are bad in your mind, but you also have to take the time to process those things. So another big thing that I've been doing with the positive intelligent quotient reps is about processing and using the app, the meditation and reflection app, to think of more sage reflections versus saboteur reflections, because our natural tendency is too often to go to the saboteur thought, the judgment thought, the critical thought, the thought about we all have different saboteurs in our life. Like my big saboteurs are controller and the people pleaser and the hyperachiever. And so I'm mindful of those things to help me process these things better, so that I don't let them get the best of me, and think of the sage perspective, which is more about reflection, empathy, explore, activate, and think of ways to be to process and strengthen my mind better. And this is something that you're going to find on everything you do. So, whether you're trying to come up with better stories, better content, you're trying to work on your strategy, you're trying to take your career or take your business at the next level, it's something that's always going to be there. So it's important for us to, take the time to work on processing our emotions and working on our mental fitness per se, and working on our mindset. So that's something that I think is important for all of us to keep in mind. The second thing I want to talk about is actually related, which is something happened last week. And, I commented about it and I talked about it. I shared a video up with my daughter on it. I did a post today actually on this. And it's really about, dealing with, and I was also processing my own emotions by just talking about it. And I find that when I do that, it helps me process my mind, but it also helps me to help other people process. So last week, someone on LinkedIn commented negatively about my weight, like that I gained a lot of weight, and negatively about my hair, that it was turning gray and I was losing hair and I'm looking old and looking really, like I'm falling apart or something like that. Anyway, and this is somebody, again, he was a troll for the most part. And he's been warned several times to, not make such disparaging comments and things like that. But it hurt. It triggered me. It hurt because just the night before, I was thinking poorly or thinking negatively about my weight gain during COVID. And so, yeah, it definitely hurt my feelings. Not that, I mean, of course it hurts. I mean, And people say you should ignore the trolls and whatever. Well, yes, we should, but that doesn't mean that you can't feel the emotion when they say those things. It's normal. Like if someone says you suck or someone says something about you, yeah, it's gonna affect you negatively. But then you have to process and let it go. And so, knowing that he was a troll, knowing that he'd been given fair warning several times, my general take was it is inappropriate and unprofessional to comment on someone's looks unsolicited anywhere. And I said that. And I said, you've been given a warning several times, and now I'm going to politely show you the door. And then I basically reported and blocked him on LinkedIn. And, it's sad that's on LinkedIn, but, the truth is this type of stuff is everywhere. But yeah, no, the truth is I was triggered. But I want to talk more about the looks thing, because this is something that happens all the time. Being someone who's trying to work on my health and work on my weight, and someone who's certainly struggled with body image, I'm very, very much against this idea that people, and you should never, ever comment on someone's looks, particularly unsolicited, right? Like, who asked you? Don't ever comment on someone, even the positive. Don't say, "Hey, great smile, great hair, love your outfit." And I know a lot of people do that, and in certain contexts, I guess that one's okay, but sometimes you don't know. Like for example, on LinkedIn, if a man compliments a woman's outfit or lipstick or something like that, that's inappropriate. It's unprofessional. You shouldn't do that. Unless you're friends. Like maybe, if you're friends, you might say, "Hey, hey, Sally, I love your outfit today." That's okay because you're friends. But people you don't know, yeah, that's totally a no-no. It's unprofessional. It's inappropriate. And so I just say avoid doing that unless people ask you, "Hey, I'm working. I have this new outfit for my presentation today. What do you think?" Yeah, okay. Then you're asking people for their thoughts on your looks, and hopefully people still won't do it in a disparaging way. But that's a different situation. But you see it all the time where people are always commenting on one's looks, and it's completely inappropriate. And I'm totally against that. And sometimes I've asked people. I asked somebody, "Hey, what do you think of my beard?" And that's okay. And people did give their comments, yes or no. Yes, I like it. No, I don't like it. And then a few people again said very disparaging remarks about how I don't beards are make you untrustworthy, and I don't believe anyone who has a beard. I'm like, okay, well that's a bit much, but okay, whatever. It's someone I didn't know, so I didn't really care so much, but it was just something that was interesting. So I'm really big on that because I'm a huge advocate now for body image and body positivity. And one of the things I talk to people, particularly on places like Instagram, is the idea that people will say, "Oh my gosh, look at her. She's so big. She should have a salad," or "Look at her. He's so skinny. He should eat a cheeseburger," or whatever it might be. And my response is, no, they're beautiful. Everyone's beautiful. And my typical mantra that I use is, and I think it's okay to strive to be healthier too, right? So my mantra is everyone is beautiful, and everyone should strive to be healthier. That's it, right? So and as I work on my own kind of perception of my own beauty and my own struggle to be healthier, that's these are mantras that I can get behind. I think everyone can get behind those things because I also think that some people like myself and people like Mike, like myself, who are, let's say, overweight, they talk about, "Hey, I'm beautiful and I'm gorgeous and I don't care what you think." And I think that's great. I like that, but only to a point, because I also think it's important to be mindful of our health and try to be better. So it's like, yes, you're beautiful, you're amazing. But, let's all work on trying to also be healthy as well. Healthy mindset, healthy physicals, healthy vitals. I think those are all really good things to work on. So, but again, in general, like commenting on someone's looks to me is like a very poor choice. And I know a lot of people do this, and even the positive ones, you have to be very mindful of, are these your friends? Was it solicited, like asked for? Then, okay, fine, there's context there. But if it's not solicited and you don't know who these people are, you should not ever say that kind of stuff. And that also segues into my third topic. And again, if you are on this call or you see the replay, you can certainly ask questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards. The other one's about toxic people. And what's interesting about toxic people, we have lots of toxic people in our life. There are some in our family. There are some among our friends. Sometimes we have a partner that's toxic. Sometimes we have a boss that's toxic. Sometimes we have close personal, professional relationships that are toxic. So I have one currently that's a professional relationship that is an important one, but they're toxic. And I've come to that realization over a long period of time. And most of the time, you identify the toxicity far into the relationship. So in this case, 2 years in. Not that it's been horrible the whole time, but like the first 6 to 12 months were okay, but then the last year it's been kind of like, okay, you know what, it's getting kind of worse and worse, and maybe I need to let go of this one. The challenge is when it's someone that you work with closely that has an impact on your professional life, or it's your partner, or it's your family member, like maybe somebody have a toxic mom or dad. I mean, that becomes a really difficult thing, because how do you create that space, right? Often the idea is to, you want to create space, and in most cases try to let go of the toxic people, but sometimes you can't. So and that becomes very difficult. So I know a lot of people say, well, they're toxic, just let them go, And I remember years ago being on a panel, and it was actually about creating deep relationships and deep connections, and it was all women on the panel, and then me, I was the only guy there. But they're asking about how to deal with it, and there was a lot of talk about getting rid of toxic people, because we all have toxic people in our lives, and I get it. And there's toxic followers, there's trolls, there's lots of people out there that are toxic. And I even did a video on Facebook recently about the toxic people that are in my friend network, and how I was changing my Facebook protocols in terms of how I was going to deal with that nonsense, and I wasn't going to take some of the abuse that people are giving anymore, or changing how I post stuff. But one of the things I said about toxic people is, yes, I think that you should always do your best to try to deal with toxic people and try to remove as many as you can from your life. But when you can't, the most important thing for you to do, instead of letting toxic people go, what you want to do is you want to create space between you and that toxic person, and then let your emotions go. And that's an important piece, going back to mental wellness. You want to process those emotions, process the feelings, dive deep into it, resolve some of them, and then try to let them go. Because that person might always be there, or they have distance. And so what I do is I create space, and I let the emotions go by processing them. And then I always leave a door open in case they ever want to return to a better relationship, but only under the conditions that I set out, which is it's got to be, positive, supportive, nurturing, and not the way it was before. And if they ever, show consistently that they're willing to change, then I'm open to having them back into my life on a more consistent basis. But, again, it's harder with people who are close to you, like your partner, but there are ways to do that. There's ways to get help together and things like that. There are some people who, keep their parents at a distance. I have a few friends that are like that too. And, when it came push to shove, I just said, look, and I didn't tell them this, but I decided to create space. And what that space meant was, this one toxic friend of mine kept messaging about getting together. And I'm like, well, and in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Based on your actions, I'm not going to let you we're not going to spend one-on-one time anymore together, even though we had before. But you're welcome to come to my Christmas party. You're welcome to come to my birthday party and with your partner and your kids, and you're welcome to come. But I'm not going to invest time and energy with a one-on-one thing, because it's always been toxic, and it just ends up being, not the best investment of my time. So, again, a lot of the theme today is mental processing, emotional well-being, because when you invest time and energy into your emotional well-being and you dive into the root of issues and challenges, you're going to find there are some great insights there. There's some great learning. There's some great growth. And I'll share another little story, which was yesterday I did my storytelling workshop again. So I do my storytelling workshop now, usually approximately like every month. And, in the group, there was people that said, oh, I don't have anything to say, or what kind of stories do I really have? And that kind of mindset, that narrative is very hard to hear, because I'm like, look, every single person, every one of you has not just one, but you have numerous incredible stories from your life. You just don't realize it, right? I could work with somebody and I could probably uncover over a long period of time 100 stories. I often say, what are your 5 to 10 stories? But seriously, I could find 100 stories from your life, right? Tell me about the time that you rode a bicycle for the first time, or about the first time you went swimming. Tell me about your first snowstorm or your first snowfall you remember. Okay, what happened? How did you feel? What did you get out of it? What's your best memory? And right away, I've extracted a story. Now you're like, well, who cares about that kind of stuff? Well, people do, because within those stories, there are things like joy, wonder, gratitude, exploration, curiosity, life, something that people can relate to. People can relate to the first day of school, the first bicycle ride, the first swim, the first snowfall. They can also relate to things like your divorce, your marriage, your breakup, your failure, your success, your school, what you learned, what you didn't learn, all the good and bad stuff that happened in our lives. There's so many stories that we have that we can actually extract if we just take the time. And people often ask me, well, how is it so easy for you to share stories? Well, because I've worked on my craft and I've honed it, and I've told stories my whole life. And so it's just very easy for me to tell a story. If someone says, tell me a story about university or high school or business or whatever, like I have a whole library of stories like the shelf behind me where I extract the stories and I just say, hey, here's my cheeseburger story. Here's my networking story. Here's my story about snowfall. Here's my story about my wedding. I mean, I have tons of stories that I'm able to share. So, I think again, like this comes up where people's mindset or narratives are holding them back from getting what they want. And even in this group, if people are struggling with certain feelings or emotions, or you have trouble with what you're dealing with, again, this is the perfect time for you to share. Share what you're feeling. Share what you're going through. We are here to support you and be a community to help one another out. We're all going to get together further and faster than if we were alone, right? Alone. And one of the things I said today on Twitter, which is, hard is harder when you're alone, and hard is easier when you're with others. So that's why we are here in room number 5. That's why this community is so important. And so I hope you continue to engage, support, share ideas, and ask questions, because that's what this is for. And that's why I'm here to try to work with all of you and all of us to work together to create something that is truly value added and supportive and leads to continued growth for all of us. So I think that's it for my live call today. Thank you so much for joining or watching. And if you have any other questions, you can comment below and let me know what you think. All right. Have yourself a safe and productive week. So long.